You don't need me to tell you how legendary the Type 2 Volkswagen was. Whether it was the van or the camper, it was universally loved. Now Volkswagen's decided to bring that van back, bring the Type 2 into the modern era with this, the ID Buzz. But you won't find an air-cooled engine out at the back because this is a pure electric vehicle.
Bearing in mind the type of vehicle the Buzz is supposed to reference, it may surprise you to know that the Buzz isn't based on a van, but it uses the same EV car platform as found under the ID3 hatchback, ID4 and ID5 SUVs, and even the ID7 saloon. And just like some of its siblings, and a whole host of EVs for that matter, the Buzz can easily tow, but it has a low rated capacity, which will be limiting to some. The model range has grown since it first arrived in 2022. There are standard and long wheelbases, we're testing the long wheelbase here, and there's the choice of 5, 6 and even 7-seater versions.
Perhaps unsurprisingly, the interior is just as interesting as the exterior. The design of the dashboard is fantastic. It manages to both look retro and modern at the same time. It doesn't feel like a van, it actually feels like a very big SUV. You do sort of sit at the same level as Range Rover drivers, so you do have a fantastic view out. The dashboard is absolutely dominated by this touchscreen infotainment system. When the ID Buzz first launched 2 years ago, this was a real downside to the ID Buzz. Now that vehicle used VW's earlier generation of touchscreen systems. The software was laggy, and the worst feature of all, these sliders at the bottom of the touchscreen here. They control the volume and the temperature. In those earlier ID Buzzes, they weren't backlit, so at night time you couldn't see to operate those functions. In this 2025 generation ID Buzz, the screen is much larger, the software is quicker, easier to use and is less glitchy than before. And thank the good Lord, those sliders are actually backlit so you can use them at night. Now the other things that I like in here, it's the storage. There is lots of storage. Big cubby over there, huge glove box, huge door bins. Here, this is a really nice touch. It's called the Buzz Box. There's little storage places in here, but you can actually remove it altogether. So if you want to have a walk through to the back seats, you can take that out in its entirety. Other little features. There's a little USB-C charging port right up here, which is really good if you want to install a dash cam. The only things that I don't like are, well, it's the quality. Now the ID Buzz isn't based on a van, it is based on the ID3 and ID4 electric cars. And I would have just hoped the quality of the materials would have been better on a vehicle that costs between £50,000 to £70,000. Just a lot of rather cheap and hollow plastics used. It's not a huge problem, it's just something that you need to bear in mind. And the other thing, whilst VW has updated this infotainment system, it hasn't updated these haptic touch-sensitive buttons on the steering wheel. More modern VW, such as the updated Golf for example, have reverted to physical buttons, which are a lot easier to use on the move. Unfortunately, the ID Buzz doesn't have that. Anyway, let's take a look in the back. One of the big advantages of a vehicle like the ID Buzz are these wide sliding doors. It just allows you to load child seats and people far easier. Now there is a choice of ID Buzz. You can have the short wheelbase version or the long wheelbase version like we've got here. If you go for that model, you get doors that are 20 centimetres longer. It just means getting people and stuff in and out is far easier. Now, once you're in, now mid-spec models and above get sliding doors as standard, very luxurious. Now you can see there is a huge amount of space here, loads of knee room, and because of the boxy dimensions, loads of headroom as well. I think you could easily fit 3 6-foot people back here, side to side, and they'd have there'd be no complaints whatsoever. Of course, there are Isofix points on both outer seats for those child seats. You get nice little practical touches like folding tables. There's a little pocket there, another one for your smartphone. One thing I do need to point out though is that some models of the ID Buzz don't have any vents or climate control back here. This long wheelbase version in mid-spec style trim does come with climate control, so you do probably need to bear that in mind. Now, because this is a long wheelbase version, you can have it as a 7-seater. The short wheelbase version comes as a 5-seater or a 6-seater. One of the big advantages to having a boxy vehicle like this compared to an SUV is that you can fit 2 full-size adults back there. A lot of SUVs, they're probably only suitable for children. Let's take a look at the boot. Round out the boot, and the first thing to mention is it is a huge tailgate, so you do need to bear that in mind if you're backing up against the wall or in a tight car parking space, but it does give you lots of shelter when it's pouring with rain. There are also little lights here, so it gives you a lot of illumination, which is really nice. Now, this 7-seat long wheelbase version, when you've got all the seats in place, you've really only got similar boot space to that of a Vauxhall Corsa, but you can fold all the seats down and even remove them as well, and when you do that you really do have a van-like loading space. Folding those seats is very straightforward. There's a little tag here, and when you do that they just fold down very easily and they fold completely flat. Mid-spec style models and above, they get this really handy device here. It splits the boot into 2. It gives you a flat loading area, but also this also folds upwards. There's a little gas strut here to keep it in place, and here you've got these little VW branded boxes for you to store all your bits and pieces and all your paraphernalia. We've got our charging cables in here, for example. In terms of tow bars, there's only one. It's one with an electrically deployable release, so you just need to pop it into place, and that costs £980. Right then, let's take this for a drive. If you go for the short wheelbase version, you get a 79 kilowatt-hour battery, which, depending on the trim level, should give you a range of up to 283 miles. That rises to 291 miles if you go for this, the long wheelbase version, and that's because it gets a larger 86 kilowatt-hour battery. All of those figures that I've just mentioned, they are the ones that VW lists in its brochure. It doesn't necessarily correspond to what you will be getting in the real world, and the ID Buzz is not alone in that. It's the same for all electric cars. By way of comparison, I've been getting around 3 miles per kilowatt hour, and that's me driving at normal speeds on a mixture of A roads, B roads, motorways, 2 up, not 7 up, but 2 up. And without towing a caravan, and that corresponds to a range of around 250 miles. I've thrown a lot of numbers at you there, I apologise. What's the Buzz actually like to drive? Well, it's lovely, actually, really wafty. The standard models get 282 brake horsepower electric motor driving the rear wheels. Performance, therefore, is very brisk, but it really does pick up very nicely, and because it's an electric car, that torque is always there, whatever speed, so it feels punchy all of the time. The ride actually is very good, despite the Buzz having enormous wheels. The ride is pretty smooth. If ride comfort is your top priority, then the short wheelbase version is a little bit better than this long wheelbase version, and that's because the long wheelbase car is a bit heavier, partly because of that larger battery, and also because, of course, it is longer. The steering is nice and accurate. The only thing that I don't like about the Buzz is the brake pedal. It feels very, very spongy, so you find yourself putting your foot on the brake and there's nothing, and all of a sudden you come to a pretty abrupt halt. It doesn't spoil, though, what is a very enjoyable driving experience.
Earlier on, I mentioned the Buzz has a low towing capacity. That's true for the majority of the range, which can only tow up to 1,000 to 1,200 kilograms. And this is for the most recent versions of the Buzz, as when it first launched, this figure was even lower. If you need to tow more, the twin-motor GTX can tow up to 1,800 kilograms. There's no pull or shove, and you even wonder if you're actually towing anything at all. When driving solo, I got 3 miles per kilowatt hour, which equates to 250 miles. But when towing, with no passengers and luggage on board, the Buzz averaged 1.9 miles per kilowatt hour, which means 163 miles. Now that's something to bear in mind.
High-spec GTX model aside, the ID Buzz is hamstrung by the fact that it can only tow lightweight caravans. But if indeed you do have one of those vans, or perhaps you have a folding tent caravan or something similar, and you can afford the high list price of this van, you will be getting an outstanding tow car. Not only that, it is hugely practical and fantastically charismatic.